Hi, my name is Gregory Mason II. My topic is where is poetry for children? I chose this because I felt like just because children don't see it on paper or on books and stuff like that doesn't mean that they're not touching it or experiencing poetry. Uh, what is poetry? Poetry is writing that formulates a concentrated, imaginative awareness of experience in language chosen and arranged to create a specific emotion response through meaning, sound, and rhythm. Where can children find poetry? They can find it in social media, YouTube, music, television, movies, children games, and books. All these are great sources for poetry. They're great points to access them. I'm just going to take a deep dive into them to give you a better understanding of how children use these as poetry. Social media, kids are able to use different platforms on social media to access poetry. Social media has pages and groups created for children to view. These pages have access to poems created in different ways like video, audio, and live stream. The different types of social media is Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, children apps, and YouTube. All these are found on basically the new technology, tablets, iPads, cell phones, and they're accessible at any moment, any time. They're at your fingertips pretty much nowadays. YouTube is one of the popular ones. This is a great platform to see all types of poetry. This is a visual dictionary for kids to look up poets, songs, nursery rhymes, and other information about poems. Music being one of my favorite, music is one of the biggest ways children hear poetry. The hottest song seems to allow children to memorize and use their brain power. Some songs have nursery rhymes built around them so kids are able to recognize the tune of the song. Teens relate to music more because they are able to express their thoughts, ideas, feelings. Music is universal, so it is able to translate through tone, beat, feeling of the song. Kids are able to access music on anywhere internet is found. The reason why it's one of my favorite is because uh, it's like I said, it's very universal. Kids are able to hear the tone of the song, feel the beat, feel the emotion of the song, and they're able to translate that into their everyday life, their passion. It motivates them. It helps them feel a type of way in that emotion where it's sad, happy, excited, um, just energetic, whatever the case may be. They love to sit in that. And television shows. Children television shows allow children to see their favorite nursery rhymes and poems come to life. Television shows make creative and entertaining characters to gather their attention. They're able to see the emotions of the characters as they display the poetry. I find it interesting because I've witnessed, like, growing up and in my generation, where I've seen these characters, expand and grow and turn into different figures. They're getting more creative of how to, make these characters, and the technology has grown as well. And I think it's very interesting for children to see this because they learn life lessons in them as well as listening to poetry in them. Um, One of my fan favorites is movies. I love movies. I'm a movie buff. I watch a whole bunch of movies, and I get to hear poems in movies, or you get to recognize songs that are, created by poetry, or myths, rhymes, and rhythms and stuff like that in movies. Movies take a deep dive into poetry, giving children background stories to why things are happening in poems. We tend to see a lot of nursery rhymes, folk tales, and myths displayed on the big screen. Kids are able to really learn poetry lessons with the movies because they break down the storyline. Children games. Children games is like, it's one of those things that's passed down from generation to generation. I enjoyed using it when I was growing up. I see that the new generation uses it in a different way. They kind of use it to their lifestyle, so what they notice or what they're engaging in as far as when they grow up. So the words have changed, but the rhymes and rhythms are kind of the same. Um, Poems are found in all children games that are played outside. These poems are used in many different ways, such as Who's the Tagger when they're playing tag, hide and seek, and jumping rope. Books are like, the prehistoric times, but children are still engaging in these things, and it's very they like it. They like to see these adventures being played out into these books. Books have been the dominant place where poetry is found. Children books come up with new witty poetry for children to read and engage in. These books display visual arts for children to see while reading poetry in a non-traditional way. So the words may be, snaked all the way through the book, or they may be kind of staggered on top of the pictures, or they may be, displayed in a different way that's like a non-traditional story way. Now that I showed you the different type of sources that poetry is found on, you may ask yourself, what impact does poetry have on children? Poetry helps early learners to read. It's accessible for children of all ages, and it's fun and inspiring. Poetry helps language development, creative language skills, creativity, writing skills, self expression, and in the development of natural rhythms. Working creatively with sentence structures help improve writing skills and creative thinking. Poetry is the perfect genre for introducing creative and interesting vocabulary to children. Poetry encourages kids to play with language and words. Poetry helps emerging readers. Rhythm and poetry are exciting to small children who love to dance and move to rhythms and sing rhymes. Help with public speaking and reading out loud. Children don't need to understand the poems to feel the emotions from the poem. They have these really nice poetry events for children. They have poet workshops, annual poetry slams, National Poetry Month, concerts, plays, and contests. Given COVID, they kind of have fluctuated into like virtual workshops, and all this stuff is like online where you can join into a Zoom meeting. But they're very interesting because they're teaching kids how to make poems, or how to read poems, or say poems, or do spoken word. They have, with National Poetry Month, they take 30 days and they do a different activity with poetry. Concerts are pretty cool because they have special guests, and in contests, they kind of are able to spar with each other and get better at making poetry, which is really interesting as well. Famous children poets like Kwame Alexander, Nikki Grimes, Walter D. Myers, they're very influential to the children, especially with the books or the poetry that they make now. I already know Crossover. When I read it, it was very interesting, and it gathered my attention just based off of how the text was moving throughout the book. And it was very, eye catching, and it consumed me when I was reading it, and it made a real big difference in just reading a regular book, a regular text. But all these famous poets are very interesting, and they all have great work. And that's going to conclude my presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Again, my name is Gregory Mason, and my project was on poetry. Thank you.